Hey, everybody, welcome to the Work with Purpose podcast. I am your host, Randy Mahoney Jr. So glad that you are with us today. If you are new to our show, I want to remind you that our podcast exists to give you practical, helpful career advice that can also give you education and encouragement to help you work with purpose in your career. And we designed to do that in about 20 to 30 minutes during the times that we are in our seasons. So during our season, we'll do episodes usually on the first Friday of the month. And as we start this month's episode, we're starting a 4-part series, which I'm really excited about, all about talking through the different things that you need as a professional to change career fields or to change industries. We're just starting December when you're listening to this, and then we're going into the next couple of months into January and February of 2023. So those are really big times in the job searching world and in the career world where people are thinking about changing jobs. Maybe you're coming into your annual evaluations, thinking about new goals for the new year and stuff. So I wanted to try to bring you something intentional that you could, chew on and think on, if changing career fields or changing your position to a better position, if that's something that you're wanting to do as you finish out one year of 2022 and then move into 2023. I think this episode and then the next few episodes in our season will hopefully be a big help to you. As we start this episode, I like to always begin our episode with our big idea or a 1 to 2 sentence summary that can help you kind of have a North Star for understanding what this episode is about. So this month's big idea is this. If you want to change career fields, the place to start is having a clear career goal. Now, that could look many different ways, but a clear career goal, it gives you direction if you want to change industries, and it really gives you a helpful foundation. Okay, so now that we've talked through our big idea to kind of lay that foundation, as it were, the reason that I wanted to bring this first step to change industries, you need to have a clear career goal. I wanted to start here with you just because from my time in teaching about career development, doing this podcast and things like that, from my work experience starting back in roughly 2017 or so, I can't tell you how many career kinds of conversations that I've had where people have a certain job in mind, but I can definitely tell just by the questions they're asking or the things that they're sharing with me that they've not really had this career goal in mind. They've either wanted to do a certain job because their parents have said that would be good for them. They've wanted to do a job because a company down the street is hiring, or this job or that job is making a certain amount of money. Now, and I would tell you that as a career coach, those are great things to think about, but those small ideas of the financial aspect of a job, because my parents say so, because a place is hiring, those are things worth considering. But I'm here to tell you, because I care about you, that those are not the entire things that should, make your career decision. So I would tell you that, just like we said at the start of our show, having that clear career goal is the place to start if you want to change your career field. To really start getting you thinking about developing a clear career goal or a list of career options, the first place to start that I would tell you is to consider taking a career assessment or a career test. Now, I have a couple of handy resources for you for that. So one helpful career test that it's actually a career tutorial that I developed back in 2020. So it's a career tutorial video that I developed called the Occupation Card Sort. If you're watching us on the YouTube version of our show, if you look in the description below this video, you'll find a link to it. But also, you can get a link to any of these links that I'll talk about, resources that I talk about in our application guide for our show. You can get that if you visit our website, WWPCast.com. That's WWPCast.com. Get your application guide. It's free. Okay, so getting back to the Occupation Card Sort career tutorial. This was a tutorial that I made back in 2020 to really serve you as our viewer, as our listener, to help you start to take a purposeful, intentional step on your career journey. Now, this tutorial, it walks through the really common career development activity called the Occupation Card Sort. I don't have time in the frame of this episode to talk through what the specifics are about that, but I'll kind of summarize it for you really quickly here. Is that Occupation Card Sort activity, it's starting to get you thinking about what are called work values. Those are things more advanced than just looking at a job posting, more advanced than just looking at a specific career path. But work values are the kinds of intangible things that you look for as you consider a certain job, as you consider a certain company. So things like, for a job that you are considering or a company that you are considering, what is their level of support? Such as, if you were to work there, what kind of support would you receive from your direct supervisor? Does the higher up leadership of that company, does it support its coworkers, and is there kind of a good, reciprocal relationship with that? So a high level of support is one work value. But all of that is talked about in that occupation card sort career tutorial video. So I believe this tutorial, like I said, I think it'll help you be able to better evaluate job postings, be able to think about possible companies to work for, really see for yourself from a really good place to see if a company is a really good fit for you or if a job is a really good fit for you. And it can really help you grow in self-awareness, give you that clarity, at least as a starting place, get the clarity that you need to maybe move forward as you look for a certain job or a certain company to work for. So again, if you want to check out that occupation card sort career tutorial, if you're watching us here on the YouTube version of our podcast, if you look in the description below this video, I'll have a link to it there, but also you can find that link in our application guide at our website, WWPcast.com. That's WWPCast.com. Okay, so besides that occupation card sort career tutorial, another career test resource that I wanted to put in front of you, just something you can come back to, you can look at in the coming weeks after this episode is live. And the other resource is the ONET Online My Next Move career test. It comes from ONET Online. So if you've not heard of ONET Online before, they are a career information website. It's developed by many different folks. I'll put a link to their site in the description below this video if you're watching us on YouTube, also in our application guide. Now, I mentioned this career test for a couple of reasons. One, it's a free career test. It's really designed to give you more general information that you can use as a job seeker. It works off of a career development idea called the RIASEC test, or RIASEC test. It basically stands for 6 different elements that make up someone's personality: realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. This was developed back, I would say maybe in the last 100 years, if not longer, from a vocational psychologist named Dr. John Holland. He theorized that every person has different levels of those 6 different aspects, those RIASEC aspects in their personality. And he would also say that somebody can make a wise and informed career choice as they pay attention to their top 3 career themes or career interests, or their top 3 of what they show up on the RIASEC test. And he would call that, Dr. John Holland would call that your Holland code, or your 3-letter code to kind of help you make a wise and informed career choice. Now, I want to come out and just say publicly, I'm not sponsored by ONET Online. I will give a link to just cite them and everything below this video and in the application guide. I'm only sharing this resource because I've used it personally, and I think it can be helpful for you. So again, that's the ONET Online My Next Move career test. All right, so we've talked about a couple career assessment tools that you can use to start this journey of changing career fields in a purposeful, intentional way. But stick around for the rest of the episode. We've got our application questions coming up. You don't want to miss it. So stick around. The Work with Purpose podcast. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, Randy here. I wanted to take a break from this month's episode, and first of all, I wanted to tell you thank you so much for listening and for watching this episode. Thank you so much for that and your time and your attention. But also during this time, I wanted to share with you that the work that we do here at the Work with Purpose podcast, it does cost us something to produce. It costs us time, it costs us energy, planning time, and also some financial investment. So some different things that we pay for here at our podcast are, we pay for web hosting. We pay for domain name usage. We pay for podcasting equipment. We pay for other miscellaneous expenses as well, like the theme you hear at the start of our episode and things like that. So I wanted to pause on this little break during this episode and make a little plug here for you that if you benefit from our podcast, if you're finding our podcast, finding our other career resources helpful, I want to invite you to give to support our work, to give to keep our podcast going. So if you'd like to give to support our podcast, you can visit our Ko-Fi page at ko-fi.com/WWPBiz. That's WWPBIZ. Again, that's ko-fi.com/WWPBiz. So when you get to our Ko-Fi page, you'll have the option. You can give a one-time gift if you'd like to. You can give on a monthly basis, whatever would work for you and for your finances. And you can give starting as small as you like, but we set a kind of a minimum of at least $5 or more. Again, if you visit our Ko-Fi page, you have that option. You can give on a one-time basis. You can give as a monthly ongoing gift if you would like to. And the other benefits are that if you do give, every person who does give to support our podcast, we want to make sure that you know that every person who gives, you have the chance to have your name mentioned as a shout out in a future podcast episode as a thank you for your giving. So again, if you'd like to give to keep our podcast going, be sure to visit our Ko-Fi page at ko-fi.com/WWPBiz. All right, so without further ado, let's get back to the show. Hey, everybody, welcome back to this month's episode of the Work with Purpose podcast. All this month, our topic is we are starting the first step of a four-part series of steps to help you change career fields. And we're talking about the first step of changing career fields in an intentional way is to have a clear career goal. So right now we're towards the back half of our episode talking through our application questions, or a couple series of questions that can help you think about this topic in a more purposeful, a more reflective way. And remember, with each episode that we develop a free application guide. If you want these application questions, any of the links that we talk about in this episode, you want to get your free application guide. To get your copy for this episode, you can visit our website at WWPcast.com. That's WWPCast.com. All right, so now let's get into our application questions for this month's episode. So here is the first one. So now that we talked about developing a clear career goal as the first step of moving into a changing a career field, changing an industry, your first question is this. Right now, what is your current career goal? So the reason I'm asking you this question is to really get you a starting place after you're listening to this episode, as I'm really thinking about this idea of, it's been a couple years since I've changed industries, a couple years since I've changed career fields, where maybe I had a career goal in the past and maybe I've lost sight of it as I've just been in the nose to the grindstone of working and things like that. So as you answer this question, I would encourage you to use more SMART goal type language. So if you've not heard of that before, a SMART goal, it's an acronym. So every letter in the word SMART stands for something. So a SMART goal, it's a goal that is specific, it's measurable, maybe it's got some numbers or a time frame and things with it, how you can measure that you'll be successful in it or not, that you believe it's attainable for yourself, it's realistic, and it's also time sensitive. So it's a goal that's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. And so that was your first application question for this month's episode. Now, question 2, it says this. So if you took the step after you've listened to this episode or the weeks between when this episode was published, if you have considered purchasing our occupation career sort tutorial, I gave you a spot on this month's application guide to write in your top work values and to write them in the space below. So the reason that I wanted to give you a question for this, just because I know that every listener is going to be in a different spot on their career journey, and I know at the start of this episode I did present you with a career tutorial that I did develop for the listeners and viewers of my show to try to serve you, to try to help you. So I wanted to give you a spot to write in your top your top work values, and to kind of reflect on them a little bit more. Because as part of that training, I do talk about in the end that as you work through that process, if you work through that work values, assessment, that occupation card sort tutorial, your work values are going to be unique to you. So that means that you're going to grow in your self-awareness and you're going to have more understanding after you engage with that tutorial and parts of that process that you wouldn't have had from the start. So that's your second application question, that if you've worked to purchase and get that occupation card sort tutorial, giving you a spot to write in your top work values on that space. And then third and finally for this month, the third application that I have for you for this month's episode is that if you take time to complete the ONET Online My Next Move Career Assessment, I would encourage you to, from your kind of reflecting on your results and things like that, to write down your top 5 or top 10 career options in the space below. So I'm not having you write what you think about the different jobs that you're excited about, but I'm giving you spots to write in your top 5 or top 10 job titles that you are curious about and that from that career assessment that you want to explore in more detail. Now, the reason for this question and trying to get you to at least list out those top 5 or top 10 careers that you're curious about and you want to explore in more detail is that based on this career assessment, what I have typically done in my years of teaching about career development, developing career resources, is that normally, if I'm working with somebody, after they do a career test like that, I might guide them to consider doing a follow-up activity like this question talks to you about. After you look at your career assessment results, looking through the career information, in this case from the ONET online website, to really start to explore those top 5 or top 10 jobs that you're curious about that you want to explore in more detail, to look at what the working tasks are, to look at what education is needed, to look at what the job outlook, the number of jobs that are available for the state where you live. Doing the career assessment is a good first step, along with any of these other questions that are on the application questions for this month. But that extra kind of follow-up activity is once you do that career assessment, it can be really helpful for you to consider listing out maybe your top 5, top 10 jobs that are of interest to you, like I just talked with you about. And then once you have that list of your top 5 or top 10, that can be really helpful and really nice for someone in your situation, maybe as a job seeker wanting to change career fields or move into a different industry, because you have a little bit more of a focused map of where you can kind of divert your energy as you're looking at job openings. So you're looking at, are there job openings for a teacher, for a technical writer, for a software developer, and things like that. You can start to, as you explore those jobs a bit more, you can start to see, okay, what kinds of education do they need? Where can I get certification or training in the state where I live? You can start to get really good, really accurate information that can kind of help guide you in your changing of career fields or moving into the job market for the first time in a long time. All right, and that brings us to the end of this month's episode of the Work with Purpose podcast. I want to thank you again for continuing to stick with us through this episode, whether you're watching us here on the YouTube video version of our podcast or listening to us wherever you get your podcast. So if you like this show, if you found it relevant, found it helpful to where you are here on your career journey, I would love it if you would leave us a rating or a review wherever you are getting this podcast. When you leave us a rating or a review, that's really helpful for our show because it helps new people find our show, engage with us, and connect with us. Be sure to leave us a rating or a review wherever you get this podcast. Helps us out a lot. Also, if you want to get a copy of your application guide for this episode, I've mentioned it a couple times today. If you want to get a copy of the links that we talked about in this episode, if you want a copy of the resources we've talked about, you want to get your free application guide for this month's episode. To get yours, you can visit our website at www.WWPcast.com. Again, that's WWPCast.com. And then finally, before we wrap up for today, if you want to keep the conversation going in the weeks between when we publish episodes, you can find us on some different social media channels. So number one, you can find us in our private Facebook group. It's called the Work with Purpose Community. So if you go to Facebook and you search for the Work with Purpose Community, that'll bring you to our private Facebook group. We have regular episode updates in there. I also publish posts on a regular basis, getting ideas for possible topics to talk about in future seasons, future episodes, and things like that. So it's a great place if you want to connect with our show, really have your voice be heard in developing future episodes. Again, go to Facebook, facebook.com and you search for the Work with Purpose community. You can connect with us there. And then also relatively new for our podcast, if you go to linkedin.com, you can actually search for the Work with Purpose podcast, and we have a page there as well. So again, facebook.com, search for the Work with Purpose community, or you can go to linkedin.com and search for the Work with Purpose podcast. You can connect with us on those different social channels. All right, so that brings us to the end of this month's episode. I want to say thank you so much again for watching with us, listening to us, staying connected with us throughout this episode. I hope you found it relevant, hope you found it practical and helpful to where you are on your career journey. So until our next month's episode, I'm Randy Mahoney, and remember, you've been made with purpose, so work with purpose. I'll see you soon. Hey, thanks so much for checking out the Work with Purpose podcast here on YouTube. If you found this episode helpful, if it encouraged you, please click the like button, the subscribe button, and hit the bell icon here on YouTube so that you can stay in the know when we update new episodes and that you don't miss a thing. Also, be sure to check out our website at WWPcast.com. That's kind of our home base for everything. So until next time, I'm Randy Mahoney Jr. telling you to work with purpose.